Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get started in just a few minutes here. We're going to give everybody a minute or two to sign on. But while we are doing that, I just want to point out that if you are having any technical difficulties, we do have Blair from our team in the background. So if you put any questions you have about sound or visuals in the Q&A box, we will do our best to help you get that sorted out. But we have a really great conversation planned for you today. Hopefully that will get you thinking about 2022 and what is on the horizon when it comes to best marketing practices. So I am super excited to have Susan Theder here with me today, and we are going to dive into all of the biggest opportunities that you need to be paying attention to. So while we're waiting for everyone to sign on, I'm going to actually launch a quick poll because we would love to hear from all of you what last year maybe you took up. So last year we had the 7 biggest marketing opportunities that we predicted would be big for what year are we in? 2021. And now we want to hear which of these you might have taken advantage of. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll and take 1 minute to answer. If it's none, you don't have to answer at all. But these were the 7 different areas that we predicted would be big marketing opportunities based off different trends. So we have offering subscription-based services, using video, targeting millennials, using retargeting ads, inclusivity in both your practice and in your marketing, creating content around alternative investments. So that doesn't necessarily mean, again, offering them, but just creating content around them, talking about them with clients, and then hyper-personalized marketing powered by automation. So I know for some of you,
but I can't vote. I was going to vote for that last one. I like that.
Oh, the last one.
Yeah,
so
vote.
Yeah, it's not going to allow us organizers or panelists to vote, but I know where your vote's at. So you may have done more than one of these. Whichever one maybe you went the most all in on is the one I would suggest that you vote for. And we'll give everybody just another couple of seconds before we end the poll. So these were the 7 big ones that we predicted for last year. And I'm just curious how people may have taken advantage. Welcome to everybody just joining us. We're about to get started and we just have a quick poll up for everyone to take a second and answer. If you're just entering the room, we're going to get started here in just about 30 seconds. All right. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to end the poll. And it looks like, so not everybody answered, which means a lot of you didn't do any of this. This is fine, but using video won by a big margin there. And that does not surprise me. I've seen a lot of you sending me your videos and asking me for feedback or seeing them in my feed. So that's really, really great. All right. We are going to go ahead and get started. Let me just share my screen. And Susan, can you see that okay?
Yep.
All right. So today we're discussing the 5 biggest marketing opportunities for advisors in 2022 based on the top wealth management trends that we see coming down the pipe. I know I've probably either met or spoken to most everybody who's in this room. Hopefully, if I haven't, I hope I get to do it in the future, but I'm Samantha Russell, the Chief Evangelist here at FMG Suite in 20 over 10. If we are for some reason not connected on LinkedIn already, please send me a request, Samantha C. Russell. You can also follow me on Twitter or shoot me an email. And joining me today, as I mentioned, is Susan, who I'm so excited, Susan, to have you here with us. So Susan and I are new friends. We've just really got to know each other over the last couple of months, but I've long admired her work. And she is our Chief Marketing and Experience Officer here at FMG Suite. So Susan, I'm going to let you tell us more about your long and illustrious career because it's so impressive.
Oh yeah, it's long, but I'm not sure about impressive. I actually, I started as a financial advisor. I was a financial advisor at Dean Witter. I'm not sure if anybody's old enough to know Dean Witter, but I think it's now, what did it eventually become? Morgan Stanley, maybe? And I loved being a financial advisor. I actually went from there to a bank called Bay Bank in Boston, which is now, I think, Bank of America, and then into private banking, where I consulted with investors and high net worth individuals. And I loved working with clients and building relationships, which, as we know, is sort of at the core of what we do. But I also found myself just gravitating towards the marketing aspects of the job. So living in Boston, I networked my way into Fidelity, where I started my career in marketing. And I was on the retail side, the high net worth segment, for about 6 years. And then I went to the RIA custodian side. So worked with RIAs at Fidelity for about 6 years, and then went over to Pershing to start their RIA business, and brought Mark Tiberghien over, and Jim Dario, and a bunch of people that you may or may not have heard of, and Philip Palaviv worked with us. And that was great. And then I got a call to be interviewed for the CMO position of Theder with Valerie Brown. And I really had been very focused on the RIA side, but obviously Pershing is big on the BD side too. So that was my first foray as a CMO, and then advisor group, and now FMG, and working with Sam with 20 over 10. And, you know, interestingly, I joined FMG because I've been a customer for 10 years, building platforms at both Theder and advisor group, and just really see the power of the technology and putting content that helps us market effectively and efficiently and authentically. And Sam and I are completely aligned with our philosophy. And it's just great to see the marriage of 20 over 10 and FMG. So I'm honored to be part of this, and I would love it if you followed me too. And we'll get right into it.
I told you she had a really
I'm
great.
just really old.
No, you have a great story. So, yes, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, Susan, and we're going to dive right in. So I'm going to kind of go through these, and Susan is going to be poking holes maybe in some of the ones that I am predicting, and also sharing some of her great insights. But we want to hear from all of you too. So as we go through this, tell us what you think, and also, ask away questions you can ask in the Q&A box or in the chat. So again, these were the 7 that we had from last year. And so I'd love to know from all of you, how do you think we did in our prediction from last year? Susan, when you take a look at this, these 7, obviously there's a lot of these things that some people haven't even started yet, and I think they'll still be big in 2022, but which ones kind of stick out to you from last year?
I do think there's been, and the poll, I think, just confirmed this. I think video has become more and more important in marketing. And it's also, it's on the lower end of sort of barriers to adoption. You just put your iPhone up and you can do a video, and you've seen all of Sam's videos. It's not, you don't have to be in a studio with a green screen and the whole bit. It's actually, I think people are getting more comfortable that it can be just pretty raw and authentic and casual, and that actually plays better. But I think all of these are probably still rolling over to 2022.
Agreed, 100%. And maybe tell us in the chat, everybody listening in, which one maybe would you like to implement the most of this list here from 2021, but you just weren't able to make it happen, and maybe why, or what would be preventing you from making it happen, so we can think maybe more about how we can help you with that, because a lot of these, some of them have a more of a service-based component to them, but there's also obviously the marketing component as well. So let's see what people have. Subscription-based services. Yes. We have some really great websites we can share that show how different people have laid out their subscription-based offering. Because, I think there's still a big hybrid approach out there for people offering subscription-based services, for people who don't meet that AUM threshold, and then being able to offer the AUM model for the clients that it makes the best fit for. So offering both is great.
And, technology is making that subscription-based services easier with the, this pay with a credit card and all that, which I know advisors have been adopting. It makes it much easier.
Yes. And I love, David said, he's talking about lockdowns and COVID. He said he has a life insurance focused practice for 29 years, and video played a huge role in keeping him relevant during the lockdown. So to your point, Susan, last year and 2020 both were big years for it.
I have to chime in because I can't see the chat. I'm just seeing the ones that pop in, but it looks like there are a lot of number 7. Is that correct? And
Yes.
that's my biggest passion. And really the reason I joined FMG, because it is a marketing automation platform. And I think the key is to using marketing automation to have scalable one-to-one. And we'll probably talk more about that, but hyper personalization and marketing automation are super powerful for sure.
Yeah. And I think where people get hung up on this is they feel like they don't understand how the two go together. So they either want to personalize everything and it feels very manual and like how do I do it? Or they want to automate everything and then they don't see as good of results because it's not personalized enough for their audience. And then they feel like, well, the automation doesn't work. So the combination of the two and how they intersect is really where the secret, sauce, the magic happens.
And I'll just give an example. It looked like somebody was asking a question. Um, Gosh, there are a lot, but one could be, we're adding to the FMG platform, and you could do this yourself, as you write an onboard, a 12-month series of the emails that you want to drip on a new client. And you create them as a sequence within the system. And then every time a client joins, you just add their email and push go, and then it's dripping on them. And the message is very similar to any new client, and you can always customize it and take a couple of seconds, but we've seen that be incredibly powerful. And obviously that first year is when they get that brand impression of you and are most likely to refer. Another is, just having a nurture series that you write about, things that happen during, the year with seasons, and you just, write it very personally. You add all your folks, but you write it in a way that it feels like you're writing it just for one person, but you send it to 100. And also niche communications. If you have niches, obviously there's ways to write things that are specific to a niche, but feel like you woke up and wrote it. And that's the kind of content that we are working with our content team to add more of. And that's where marketing automation really gets to the scalable one-to-one.
So in that first example you gave, you write those 12 emails, people get them once per month. And
yeah, not even actually, like, because I always want things not to be predictable, so they surprise and delight. So it might be, a week after they, join and you've done the ACATs or whatever. And then maybe it's 23 days later saying, hey, I just woke up and realized you're going to get your first statement. Feel free to call me if you have any questions. Like
I love that
email. And then, 42 days later, it's, hey, I was just thinking about you. How's everything going? How's the family? Feel free to, check in anytime. Just wanted to let you know, I'm thinking about you. Like really hyper personalized, but could work for everybody.
Right.
That's surprising.
I love that. How's the family? And it's the word family can mean anybody.
Yeah.
So,
and you're adding each customer individually. So if if you're going to need to make any tweak, and it's just go in and make that tweak for that one person.
That's such a great example though. I think again, so hopefully that helps for all the people who are asking, what do you mean by implementing this and what would that look like? And I think, Susan's, already alluding to the fact that these are all the kinds of things we're thinking about as a company and how we can help make that automation more and more hyper personalized as we work on the different products that we offer. So if that's something you're excited about, let us know in the chat because we love to hear what people most want to see from the product side as well. All right. Great idea, Susan. Love it. All right. So let's move on to the top marketing opportunities in 2022. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say the same way as the list from last year, so many of you didn't implement certain parts of that. This is by no means something where we're saying you should take advantage of all of these and implement them all this year. It is, here are some things you should be thinking about. Which one of these might be a good fit for your particular business? And based upon your own goals, your own objectives, the manpower you have, the tools you have at your disposal, what you're able to do. So don't feel like this is an exhaustive list. You need to go implement all of these. It should be which ones are going to be a good fit for our own firm and think about how you implement them. Okay, so number one is having a spokesperson. So many of you, if we are connected, you've heard me say before that, really what it all comes down to as a financial advisor today in 2021 and into 2022 is we're all competing, right, in this expertise economy. So people are choosing to work with different firms, not because, of any other reason really than the relationship is what it comes down to. And so to compete in the expertise economy, you really need to show your expertise. And so having a spokesperson for your firm is so important. And I love this little graphic here on the right that just shows the intersection between being perceived as credible, authoritative, and having that visibility, and how those three things combine together to really showcase, that you have ownership within this area of expertise. So visibility comes from thought leadership. We have some ideas over here of how you can do that. But I think, and Susan, maybe you want to speak to this. There's lots of ways to have a spokesperson for your business. It doesn't just have to be the video aspect that we've already sort of touched on.
Yeah, I hear from a lot of advisors say, I'm not the guy that's going to have the radio show. I'm not the woman that's going to be on stage giving us, a lecture. How do I become the spokesperson and thought leader if that's not my personality? And there are lots of ways. And I think some of the easiest is just, we all have passions about certain topics or certain planning techniques. Choose the ones that fit your niche and your interest and your passion, and follow thought leaders in the area that are writing articles about it. And then you can just opine on what others are writing, which is a lot easier than writing it or doing it yourself. And that just associates you with that thought leader, but adds your flavor to it. And I think, that's just an easy idea.
Yeah. I mean, some of the people that I love to follow the most on social media, are just constantly sharing articles from CNBC or the Wall Street Journal or some blog. And they're not what they've written, but then they have a strong opinion on whatever the article is. They have their own hot take on it. And, you start to really get a sense of what they're reading, what they're paying attention to, what their opinion is, without them having to go and spend hours creating content every week. And, I think both FMG and 20 over 10, we also provide this to all of you in those content libraries, right? So you can take any of the pieces that are already written, and instead of just sharing it, formulate your opinion on it before you share it. That's the really crucial part, is the opinion.
Absolutely. And, I don't think it doesn't always even have to be about some sort of educational or financial topic. It can be more lifestyle or social. We do know social is about being social. So, I've seen advisors that have shared recipes or have shared, Christmas ideas or things like that. And that still puts you sort of your face out in front and helps build your brand.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, I did a social media post the other day just trying to ask people for great holiday gift ideas, and it blew up because right now we're all wondering, like, what's a great thing to get clients? It's nothing to do with, marketing strategies or tactics. It's just something that is going to apply to everybody. And so it's that's a kind of topic that is universal. Okay. So I just put on this slide here some of the places that you might want to put, one of these spokespersons. So Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, where they can be. Of course, this also could be, though, like on local radio shows, or, appearing on stage at an industry event, or networking, getting the person who's going to be the spokesperson to network with journalists, so that they'll be, the person that the journalists call when they need, a quote about something. But I just wanted to show you kind of what this looks like in practice. So on this next slide, I've added some examples of a spokesperson for a different organization and kind of what this would look like out there in the wild on social media. So Tyrone Ross is the chief executive officer at On-Ramp Invest. And when they had a big day, when they were in Times Square, they had a picture that they're sharing on their social feed. I'm sure many of you know Kathy Wood from ARK Invest. She's got a video here where she's just giving a 1-minute update on something, right? Aaron Klein from Riskalyze sharing that he's speaking at this event with a nice graphic. Penny Phillips over here from Journey Strategic Wealth, having like a very candid Q&A, answering questions that people ask her. So in all of these examples, you as the consumer of the information, are starting to feel like you're forming a relationship with an individual and not a brand. And that's really what the important part is of this trend.
Yeah. And the point being, all of these people, well, ARK Invest is, I think, posting on behalf of the company, but these are people and they're posting about their company, but in their personal feed. The other, another really easy idea is anytime you attend a conference or do anything that relates to professional or personal development, you can share that and just say, excited to do blankety blank, and share some personal tidbits about what you're excited to learn or get out of it or who you're going to see. And that typically gets a lot of engagement, while also putting you as a thought leader, because you're expanding your skill set professionally, and that sort of makes you look good, but it's an easy post.
Yeah. And the one thing that I did want to point out though, is even if you're not using video, that human psychology, there's something about our brains that we form connections with faces. So even if you're not using video, whoever that spokesperson or spokespersons, there was a question that just came in from Patricia asking, can you have a small group all be the faces of your brand? Absolutely. You might have, your CEO, your CMO, and your chief evangelist, like Susan and I together, right? You can have multiple people, but the idea is that just having their name is not enough. There's something in psychology called the mere exposure effect that tells us that the more we see something, the more we're apt to say that we like it, and also that we remember it. And so having somebody's face, even if, like you see in this bottom example here, Aaron's picture is just on a static image, that is helpful. Even here, right? Tyrone, you don't see his picture or his face in the image, but every time he's posting, you're going to see his picture associated with that brand logo. So you want to include those human faces as much as you can, even if the video part is something you're uncomfortable with. So keep that part in mind as well. Okay, let's move on to the second opportunity. And I'll be really interested to hear if any of you are already experiencing this in your firm. So for years, we've all been hearing the great wealth transfer is coming. The great wealth transfer is coming, right? And this is a chart from Statista, which showed the population distribution and then the wealth distribution in the United States in 2019. And Cerilli and Associates have done a lot of studies on this. They were estimating back in 2019 that 68 trillion would move between generations within 25 years. And multiple studies have suggested that 80% or more of people who inherit their parents' wealth look for a new advisor once they've inherited that wealth. So the great wealth transfer is something we all want to be thinking about, obviously, as those clients that we have that have this wealth are passing it along. Now, furthermore, people have been saying it's been coming. This chart I just want to show you is basically that it's here. So in 2007, 2008, there was a study that looked at how much did people attribute inheritance to playing a part in their wealth creation, right? So how much of it was their income, they were earning it, versus they had inherited it. And just 21% of 25 million and higher net worth folks were saying, yes, I've inherited a bunch of money, and 22% of the 5 million to 25 million. But then last year, that number jumped from the 20% range to 66% of people saying, I've inherited a big chunk of my wealth. So the great wealth transfer, basically what I'm trying to say is it's already happening. It's here. We don't need to say, oh, it's coming soon anymore. So why is this a marketing opportunity? Well, 20% of those with 25 million or more want their advisor to establish relationships with their children when they're as young as 18. And there's a lot of different ways that you can start that process. But I think one of the big takeaways is just that obviously different generations have different communication preferences, different fee model preferences, different working relationship preferences. And also, if you wait until somebody inherits a bunch of money to establish that relationship, there's been a lot of research that shows that the younger generation sometimes get resentful of it in a way, like, oh, now that I have this money, now you want to talk to me, but before you didn't. So it's a good idea to start that relationship early before the transfer of wealth happens. And so we have just some ideas here. Again, I'd love to hear from all of you in the chat. Is this something you're already seeing play out in your firms? Is it something that you've thought about? Do you offer any of these ideas? So, offering free planning to clients, up until they hit 26, that natural age when they would go off of their parents' insurance, or creating some sort of package that can be specialized around this younger, very young generation. And then just one more thing, and then I know, Susan, you probably have a lot to say about this too. You can see we've added, a lot of you I know have questions about this study because I've talked about it before. The research comes from the Spectrum group, and we've linked in the slides, which will be sent to all of you, the full research report so you can dig into it at a later time.
Yeah, my add to this is I'm an example. I'm a living example. And you are so right. And I'm sure most people know this. You can't wait until the wealth transfer happens. My mom is 95. My dad passed away 2 years ago. And they were with an RIA that I had recommended from Fidelity. And they did make the introduction and wanted to speak with me and my husband, but they just didn't, approach us about us. It was talking about my mom and dad and everything about them, but they never sort of separated it and created an independent relationship with us and got to know our family. And their communications were non-existent, which is another thing we've seen, Sam, that is the number one reason why clients leave advisors. So we switched, and you know what? I got my mom to switch too. So we are now with a different advisor, and they lost both accounts, and my mom's still alive. But I think the reason I left was really not feeling a connection and not feeling like that advisor, cared or kind of clicked with me and my husband and talked about our kids and our estate planning and needs like that. So that's my one piece of advice, and do it early. But I think, as your clients' children are in their 30s, 40s, and for me, 50s, that's, they now really have some concerns about their financial future, and, write down their kid, get to know them, get to know their kids' ages and birthdays, surprise them, surprise the kids with birthday cards, things like that. The best way to our heart is through our kids. So anyway, just a couple tips.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think people are asking, so what would you suggest are the best ways? I know that one of the things that a lot of firms struggle with is not wanting to, be doing a bunch of free work at the same time. So I was just on a call a couple of days ago, and somebody in the audience asked, hey, we have this one client, and the son who's going to inherit all this wealth, he's in his 30s and keeps saying, like, I don't need an advisor. I can manage this on my own, and I can Google whatever I don't know. But then he calls our office with questions pretty much every week.
Yeah.
And of course they answer those questions. But, they just have really been struggling on how to set a boundary where, they're doing all this work basically for him for free. And so we talked about, again, going back to that subscription model, even if they're not going to get paid from the AUM model with him, setting up a subscription-based model, rolling it out. And, whenever he calls with a question, you can still answer it, but remind him, to say, hey, we've actually rolled out this new subscription-based model. I think it'd be a great fit for you. It's for people like you who want to go manage their own money in this account, but would like some additional planning help or advice or consultations. And here's what it is per month. And especially as you're going to be inheriting more of your parents' wealth and we understand their situation, it will be great for us to have this relationship. So there's different ways of thinking about it, but I think having that subscription-based model for the younger client is a really key way to do it, and do it early before they've inherited the wealth.
Yeah. And, in that onboarding campaign that I talked about, where you write sort of, 6 or 7 drips throughout the first year, one of them that I recommend is something that relates to, I think of you as part of our family, and I'd love to be part of your family. I know your kids are probably the most important part of your life. When the time is right, I'd love to set up a meeting where we can meet them to make sure that we know them and their names and their kids' names, and can ensure that we've got that connection. And it almost always leads to a meeting. And even if they're not ready to invest or don't have a lot of money to invest, asking the parents, the client, if they're comfortable with you sharing things that you're working on with them, or topics that you're discussing with them, and sharing them with the children, is also a great approach. Because if you're treating their parents well, even if you're not working with them and managing their money, as soon as they have money and want that relationship, they'll come to you.
Yeah, I love this tip too in the chat from David. He just said it's also extremely important to maintain and have a relationship with the trustees on a client's trust. Because, if he's grandparent one, grandparent two, whoever it is, passed away and they don't have a relationship, they can move that relationship as well. So really, really good point.
Very
Do you have
good.
any other ideas of things you've done? I see some of you sharing them. Like John said, several of my clients' kids are clients as well. Tell us, give us your ideas in the chat. You all know what works really well too. So we'd love to hear from you. I just wanted to share this before we move on to the third opportunity, which is this is a research report from that same study from the Spectrum group, where they asked a wide range of generations, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, and World War II, what is the most important factor if you had to pick like your top one in choosing a new advisor? So this is the percentage that ranked any one factor as number one. And I have it circled down here because this stopped me in my tracks. For years and years and years, we all hear it, like referrals are the way that advisory firms grow. Only 4% of millennials comes with a strong recommendation from trusted family and friends as their top criteria. 4%. So that's pretty huge. And
I think I would interpret that potentially as there's a nuance. They're not going to blindly take a referral and act on it. They're going to take a referral and then do their own homework. But I would be surprised if it still doesn't influence them in some respects, but it's not going to be the number one. If they're going to then look on Google, they're going to look on your social profiles, they're going to look on your website, and sort of that combination of activities is probably the most important aspect. And you'll see that, I think you see it, because if you look at the millennials, it's almost the same percentage for almost everything, which means it's all of the above.
Right. It's such a good point. So the use of social media tools like Facebook and LinkedIn, the individual being perceived as trustworthy, what kinds of fees or commissions do they charge? Are they associated with a well-known company? All of these things. But I think one of the other really interesting ones was investment track record of advisor. Only 15% chose that, which is pretty significant, statistically significant less than the other generations, which I also find really interesting. And I don't know if that's because most millennials are not investing money with an advisor just yet. They're like, either, they have it in a 401k or they're doing it on their own. So they're looking for other criteria, or what that means. But I find that fascinating as well.
Yeah, that's surprising, since my perception is that they're, very much seeking, the Robinhood and all that, seeking performance, but.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So moving on to marketing opportunity number 3, alternative communication channels. And what I mean by this is specifically that we are seeing a huge rise in opportunity in YouTube and Instagram specifically for the firms that are starting to adopt them. So I have this little cheat sheet here that we created last year about kind of why you would use different platforms. And just as a tip, I don't know if everybody feels this way, I do not suggest, being incredibly active and driving yourself crazy, trying to be active on every social platform, right? I think you prioritize choosing one or two that is going to be where your audience is spending the most of their time. And that's where you're the most active. So again, this isn't going to be the right fit for everybody, but let me just give you a little bit of intel here about why this is an opportunity. So YouTube took over Facebook as the most widely used online platform among US adults 18 and over in 2021. So it used to be that Facebook was the most widely used, and now it's YouTube with 81%. That is significant for a lot of reasons. Even if you're not creating video yourself, like you don't, we went back to that idea of having a spokesperson in the face of the company and getting them on video, and that's great. But even if you don't have that yet, you can still run ads on YouTube for 1 to 3 cents cost per view, very, very minimally. So retargeting people, right? Somebody comes to your website, comes to your blog, and then you show them ads. That's a little bit more of like an advanced technique, but it is a great opportunity there on YouTube for cents on the dollar. And as you can see, again, just like where people are spending the most time overall, it is overtaking all of the others. So no matter what generation or what age group or what niche you're serving, you can rest assured that they are using YouTube. Instagram, the thing I want to say about Instagram is that it definitely is focused more on women and millennials. So young women, young people in general, if that's not who you're trying to target as much, then it's not going to be one you need to pay attention to. There's also still a lot of firms that cannot use Instagram because it can be a lot harder to archive, and the archiving tools are not as available. So you definitely want to check with compliance before you roll this out. The other thing about signing up for Instagram is that actual posts in the feed don't matter nearly as much as things like stories and reels. So you have to have a lot of content for Instagram to be effective. And it needs to be visual content, highly visual content. So I have just an example here of what one of those click-through stories looks like. If you'd like to check out this profile, from the Sassy Investor. She does a really good job of using reels and video, and you can take a look at that. But again, going back to the conversation we were just having, maybe there's somebody on your team who's a younger advisor and you want to get them involved and have them, be helping to attract that next generation of clients that are, on using tools like Instagram every day. They could maybe take the lead on creating something like this. So again, thinking about, do you have the bandwidth to create the content for it? Will it be compliant? And is your audience that you're trying to target spending time there or
Yeah,
not?
I would say like this is where I get overwhelmed because I'm like, oh my God, it's totally different content. It's not anything that you would put on LinkedIn or Facebook. And it is visual, but it also has to be fun and engaging and clever. And that's a whole nother level of effort. So I'm definitely with you. Either get an intern, go to the local college and see if anybody's in marketing and wants an internship. Somebody that is actually using it daily is the best person to leverage to do this for you. I'm not sure I could even do it effectively at my old age.
But I do think, one of the things that's really interesting that we haven't really talked about is, so all of these are really marketing opportunities for like new clients or connecting with, new clients. The thing about Instagram and YouTube that I love is it's both great for attracting that next generation or, people to your current clients, children, grandchildren, but also it's great for recruiting new talent. So if you're trying to grow your own advisory firm and you want to get some younger blood in there and you want people to come and want to work for you and they kind of perceive your firm as being a little bit more hip and with it, having a robust profile on something like Instagram is a great way to do that. And
I
I
just
feel like
saw Blair just posted the Canva. She just did a Canva plug. The whole visual piece that seems daunting. It's so easy. If you haven't gone on Canva, you should. And FMG just integrated Canva into our platform. So you can create your own social posts right in the platform using Canva and pulling up, zillions of different options. So it makes it so much more engaging and beautiful. So I definitely, think that's a good tip.
Absolutely. Yeah. We love Canva. I put a couple examples in here too, if you want to check them out, because I know examples are probably the easiest way to learn. And so here's, there's a link here to Thomas Kopelman. I did a conversation with him where he's using Instagram more than any other platform to grow his advisory firm. And he got 8 new clients just from Instagram alone last year. He posts a story every single day. So I put his profile here as well as a link to our conversation on YouTube if you want to check that out, if Instagram is of interest to you. I just wanted to show you kind of like an example of what a nice grid would look like on Instagram. So here's one from Myra Wealth. They specifically work with immigrants on their personal finance. And so what I love is I think it's every other week, they feature somebody, like it could be Albert Einstein one week. It's like well-known people that a lot of times people don't realize maybe were immigrants, and they'll tell their backstory. They have just Q&As that they do. They have video content, and you can see all of these kinds of images are things you can create in Canva. So I think that's a great example. And then the Financial Gym is just one more. Their target audience is young people living in New York City who are not looking for investment management, just financial planning. And so the topics that they have, again, is very, very different. So use these hopefully as some inspiration for getting started. Okay, moving on to number 4. Be a one-stop shop. So the reason that this is one of the biggest opportunities for 2022 is that more than ever, we are seeing when people are, choosing different advisory firms that they want to work with, that there's a lot of frustration that comes with having to collaborate multiple different professionals. And there is a real desire to have one person doing everything. And we've heard for years people using terms like holistic planning or comprehensive financial planning within our own industry, that jargon. But I like to just say one-stop shop because as we all know, when it comes to marketing messaging, it's not what our industry uses, what jargon our industry uses, but what the consumer will think to use. And so here on the right, there's this great chart where it's a gap between what people expect to get when they engage a financial advisor versus the services that they actually get. So I don't know, Susan, taking a look at this, which one really sticks out to you? Like, wow, I can't believe the gap here.
I think, I'm trying to look at when I, working with my advisor, the tax efficient investing is huge. And, especially with the, pending tax laws and estate planning changes, I think what most customers are looking for, investors looking for, is optimizing their financial future. And to optimize it, it is inextricably linked with estate and tax planning. And you don't have to obviously be the one giving it. We work with a different attorney and CPA, but my advisor is definitely the quarterback, and the fact that she is bringing up the ideas and understands the concepts, but then can get experts that will help execute is huge. So I think those two gaps are ones that you don't have to actually, you don't have to be the expert, but marketing that you offer that and being aware of strategies that encompass tax and estate, I think is huge.
I couldn't agree more. The tax one is the one that I hear more than ever. And I will say, like, tell us in the chat, are you either acting as the quarterback and coordinating for your clients with their CPAs, or do you have somebody on staff internally that does that, or maybe you're a CPA and an advisor? Because I'd love to just get a feel for, all of the people on the call, how many of you are already doing that. What I find is there's a lot of firms that are doing it, but they don't market it. And that's where there's this huge opportunity, because people are going to your website or they're looking at what kind of content you're sharing, and they don't see that that's there. And it's a huge differentiation, because this is what consumers want. They they get frustrated with having to be the go-between, the conduit. And so they're looking for somebody to do that.
I think, Sam, we talked about this yesterday. The most important angle to this is being proactive. Your clients will be with you forever, and their children will, if you're proactively bringing ideas, solutions, strategies. Even if they don't get implemented, it just shows that you're thinking of them and thinking about their situation and identifying, timely opportunities. That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, I was just telling Susan, so I'm about to go out on maternity leave here with baby number 3. And what I love, like with our advisor, without us having to even say anything, like he knew we're obviously having another baby. When he found out, in our next meeting, he had on the agenda new car for Ryan with a question mark, because my husband's car would not fit 3 car seats in it. And that kind of proactiveness is just one little example, but he does that kind of stuff all of the time. And it's so appreciated. We don't have to put that into our financial plan or our budget or whatever we're doing. Like, he brings it up proactively.
I'm sure right now, timely, many of the people on this call, if not all, are probably reaching out to their affluent customers about Roth IRA conversions. And I know mine did. And, the other thing is getting, the collateralized loan that could pay for the taxes, or the swap. Those are some interesting and very timely approaches that could be an opportunity, if you haven't reached out yet, to think about.
So I love what I'm seeing in here. Tons of you are already saying we have a tax practice, or we have a CPA, or we're networked to the CPA in our building. We do not market it much, but we should. Yes, we act as the quarterback. We give tax advice all the time, with the caveat, we're not licensed CPAs. We suggest you confirm with a licensed tax professional. One of our advisors is a enrolled agent. So all different ways you're all doing it. But I think the big opportunity here is the way you market it. So I just want to show you a couple examples on these next slides of how you can demonstrate this in your marketing quickly. Now, remember, pictures are worth 1,000 words. So the more you can make this a quick visual thing, the better. So here on the left, we have Tenon Financial, and they right there, their value proposition. We provide tax efficient retirement planning and investment management. And if you scroll through their site, they mention the CPA on staff, the tax strategies that they offer, and how it's incorporated. You see the word taxes throughout the copy on the page, just to reinforce in that part of your brain, right? On the right-hand side, on this Milestone Financial Planning website, right below their homepage fold, as you're scrolling through, they have this nice visual that just basically shows what it means to be a comprehensive financial planner in their opinion, and how they're coordinating all of these areas. Probably my favorite one, though, is this one here on the right. So, this is sort of the old way of doing it, right? Where you would explain, we're going to serve as your family CFO, and here's what that means. Most likely people are not going to read all of this when they're just visiting your website for the first time. So on the right-hand side, there's this great visual, and you can get the same message that it would take you a few minutes to read in mere seconds by looking at the graphic on the right, right? So having something like this on your website or sharing it regularly in social posts, just reinforcing that message over and over again as a differentiator is so crucial. Okay, on to the last one. I'm glad, because we only got a couple minutes left. So the last one that Susan and I want to talk with you all about is incorporating social proof into your marketing. So you'd have to probably be living under a rock by this point to not have heard of the SEC ad rule that went into effect on May 4th of this year, which we've all been really excited about. It's a huge game changer. And the reason that it's a game changer is that really we're one of the last industries that has not been able to use social proof in our marketing, which is why I think referrals honestly also have stayed stronger than ever before. Because really, if you think of what a review is, it's an online referral, right? And think about how much easier it is to get somebody, a client, to write a really great referral on Google or a testimonial or something once that will keep going to work for you over and over again, rather than just, hoping and praying that they're going to remember to bring your name up, or they'll think to refer you to people in multiple conversations. So that is one of the reasons why I love reviews. So the new SEC ad rule that came out basically allows for Google reviews and testimonials. Now, there's a couple caveats, of course. The rule went into effect on May 4th. The enforcement period is November 4th of 2022. So everyone has 18 months from a compliance standpoint to come into full compliance with the rule. You can't cherry pick and only be using parts of it now and saying, oh, I'm in compliance with these parts and I'll do the rest by November 4th of 2022. It's definitely an all or nothing in this 18-month period. So number one, I don't want to give anybody in trouble. Check with your home office compliance first, find out what they're allowing you to do. And if in the meantime you get a review and it hasn't been signed off that, yes, we're good with you using Google reviews, do not like or respond to the review in any way. So anyone can leave any business a review on Google. Google is the publisher. There's no way to stop them, but do not respond to it or, give it a thumbs up or anything. Don't ask for reviews until you check with compliance first. And this is all called social proof because, again, it's just the whole idea of the phenomenon when we don't know what to do, we look to others who've been in a similar situation before and wonder, what have they done and how did it go for them?
On that, add on the referral piece, and it's so exactly true when you say, waiting for a client to hopefully think of mentioning you to one of their friends there's a lot of hope. And I have lots of strategies that I think work for that, but if they post that review, it's being seen by people that are way beyond their network, so each of your clients can only refer to the people they know, but that review on Google goes to, anybody and everybody. So suddenly their referral power has been, exponentially increased.
It's so well said. I mean, your client can only refer you to people that they know or have conversations with, but their Google review can act as that social proof for which is huge. So on that same note, there is something brand new that just rolled out called Google Verified that is basically this little green check you can get next to your name that allows you to go through the process of sharing your licenses, your registrations, different data with Google. And you have to have at least one 3-star Google review as part of this process. But you can get this little check mark that basically says Google screened. So again, with the idea of social proof, having Google say, yes, we verify that this person is a licensed, registered advisor provides peace of mind to the consumer, right? Again, from a compliance standpoint, you want to check with your home office before you do any of these things. These are kind of the wild west right now of marketing in financial services. And because we have this 18-month grace period of during which time everybody's figuring out how they're going to enforce it, how they're going to track it, how they're going to monitor the communications, firms are in multiple different stages of what they're approving and not approving. So you really, really want to check first before you take on any of these strategies. But for either of them, if you want to become a Google screened advisor, if you want to start utilizing Google reviews, and I really do think the firms that do these things quickly are going to win out, because from a consumer standpoint, they don't know about all of the rules of compliance that we all have to deal with. And when they go to Google an advisor and they see one advisor has 15 4.5-star reviews, that says something to them, right? Especially if they have a couple different names that they're vetting. So it's definitely worth it. It's something I would work to make happen. And I think over the next few years, especially by November 4th, 2022, when the compliance 18-month period is over, we are going to see it becoming very ubiquitous in our industry, just like any other industry. But in order to do this, you do have to have an active Google My Business account. So to become Google screened or to get Google reviews that you can manage, you can send out the link to people. So this would be a top priority if I were an advisor and I hadn't done this yet. For this year, coming into 2022, is to claim and optimize your Google My Business listing.
You know what I'm also just thinking about?
Yes.
Smart Asset just got, $1 billion valuation and seems to really be gaining momentum. There's going to probably be more and more of those types of platforms that help match investors and advisors. And although I have some skepticism, it seems to be working, but what do you think will drive their choice? They're now that review is going to be huge in that model. And I know a lot of you are, either in one of the custodian referral programs at Fidelity or Schwab or other referral programs. This is going to be an absolute must.
That is such a good point. I did not think about that, but yeah, I mean, whether you're doing your own, like you've got a couple names from a couple friends or whatever it is, it's just, again, it's sort of that, of course you can call a firm and say, can you give me the names of a few clients? But so much of the research we do now online, or so much of the research we do happens online, right? And so it's just making it really easy for the consumer. I want to make sure we have time for any questions. You guys have listened to us for 55 minutes. So hopefully this was really helpful, and you can think about these 5 opportunities and think about, where it might make sense to fit them into your business. Blair shared a bunch of resources in the chat. If you want to click on those links, they'll be part of the email follow-up when we send you the slides that can help you think about that. But I have just been so excited, Susan, to have you here joining me today. I know so many of you, like I said, have heard me speak many times, but haven't had a chance to meet Susan, FMG's CMO and Chief Experience Officer. And I have to say, she's only been with us a few months, but she is just such a game changer. She's so innovative with how she's thinking about things. I'm so excited for all of you to see what we have coming in the next year or so when thinking about innovative products and services we can offer. And we want to hear from you, like, what can we do that will help you with your marketing game, whether it's certain services we can offer, products. So Susan and I both put our emails on here. She would be the go-to person. If you normally contact me with a question, well, I'm out on maternity leave, Susan, right? It's okay.
Absolutely. Yep, I would love to hear from you.
And so, yeah, Susan, I don't know if there's anything else you want to share before we let everybody go.
No, I'm looking forward to working with everyone, getting to know you. I've learned so much from Sam already, and I consider her sort of the MBA PhD of marketing. And I'm just looking forward to your suggestions and ideas to help us steer the company in the right direction.
You are so sweet. Yeah, so if there's anything else that, any other questions, we will keep an eye out for them. I think we got to all of the big ones, but we'll email you the answers if we missed your question. And yes, the slides and the recording will be coming to you tomorrow with links to how to get your Google My Business page set up, how to get Google screened. I see a lot of questions coming in about that. So we'll make sure we give you all those tutorials. Thank you again, and enjoy oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, have a great holiday season. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everybody.